California says it's solving the housing crisis with accessory dwelling units. But here's the reality. Even though state law bans cities from requiring minimum lot sizes, more than 1 in 3 ADU applications stall or fail because of local hookup rules. Now place that against Tesla's tiny house. A fully off-grid design powered by a 2.5 Tesla system and a 13.5 kilowatt-hours Powerwall. It doesn't just sidestep the need for hookups, it challenges the foundation of states' building codes. And that's where Ed's real battle begins. Not in engineering, but in whether regulators will allow technology to move faster than the law. We're going to dig into the numbers, the policy clashes, and what it means for families trying to break free from rising housing and energy costs. Often require accessory dwelling unit permits with a minimum 400 square feet foundations, leading to 25% rejection. Similarly, Florida mandates 150 square ft per occupant, complicating lists and adding $2,000 to $5,000 in appeal costs annually. These are not theoretical problems. They are real financial traps hitting Americans right now who thought a tiny home would solve a housing crisis. The paperwork alone can cost more than the home itself. So, here is the question that changes everything. How can Tesla's $7.559 tiny house with its convertible chassis meet state-specific zoning like Texas' lenient recreational vehicle classifications or New York's strict minimum sizes to secure legal parking without extensive modifications? This is not just about parking a house. This is about whether you can legally live in it tomorrow without a lawyer on speed dial. Let me show you hard proof. California's Assembly Bill 2221 makes it easier to build tiny homes as accessory dwelling units by permitting process and requiring local agencies to handle necessary connections within 60 days, while also preventing cities from using minimum lot size rules to block at least an 800 feet unit. In Texas, re-centralization such as Senate Bill 15 reduces lots minimums in many cities to 3,000 square feet, making small homes more feasible. Although local codists still decide whether wheeled tiny homes can qualify, and fees can vary. In Florida, zoning and occupancy standards are set locally rather than by a statewide rule, so there is no blanket requirement like 100 square feet per additional occupant. But restrictives in many counties still raise land and permitting costs. In New York, there is no statewide ban on homes under 600 square ft, yet many municipalities pose minimums as rules that effectively hold tiny homes in urban and suburban areas, leaving rural parcels as the model. But local zoning is also the choke point for tiny homes on wheels. Tiny houses are commonly treated as recreation vehicles or park models rather than as dwellings, which means many municipal codes limit long-term parking or full-time residency. The International Residential Code includes a tiny house appendix that defines tiny houses as 400 square ft or less. Beauty adoption of that appendix is optional and uneven across jurisdictions. You can own the home, but you cannot legally park it in your own driveway. That is the American zoning nightmare in 2025. Now, watch how Tesla demolishes these. Tesla has 3 advantages delivering that municipal policymakers and community landowners cannot ignore. First, Tesla can deploy a vertical integrated tiny lot system where Tesla buys or leases underutilized parcels near transit and configures them as certified tiny pads with standardized permits and community rules. Second, Tesla can bundle energy, parking, and insurance into a subscription, lowering administrative friction for towns and residents alike. Third, Tesla can use aggressive engineering to make the vehicle portion physically removable or convertible to meet specific local coded definitions when needed. Moreover, Tesla integrates a detachable wheel system with pre-engineered foundation blocks, enabling quick conversion to meet International Residential Code Appendix Q for stationary units under 400 square, reducing setup time to 24 hours and compliance costs by 50% in states like Texas. This design supports land leases at $250 to $500 per month via embedded utility ports, expanding viable spots by 35% in Florida's flood-prone zones. Even more appealing in New York, where 70% AFTNI placements require variance costing for $1,000. Tesla's hybrid classification cuts this by 60% to $1,600. Overall, seniors could save $8,000 to $12,000 over 5 years on parking and apples based on 2025 market data showing 28% eviction reductions with compliant designs. These are not projections. These are documented savings from states that have already adopted similar frameworks. Especially with the older generation, the critical issues are proximity to healthcare, security of tenure, and predictability of monthly costs. If Tesla negotiates long-term lease terms with municipalities or creates standardized AFTNI designs recognized by local permitting offices, it converts the $7,559 purchase into a reliable legal home option with predictable monthly costs and no paranoia about being asked to move. You buy once, you stay legally, you sleep without fear. For a 67-year-old retiree, for example, bypassing eviction risks that affect 20% of tiny homeowners means stable subsistence at $200 to $400 monthly land, preserving retirement funds for essentials rather than legal battles. Imagine spending your social security check on groceries and medicine instead of lawyers arguing with code enforcement. That is what Tesla makes. Now, if you could place your Tesla tiny house anywhere in America without zoning headaches, which state would you choose and why? Drop your answer and the words tiny house in thick. If you are serious about this revolution, are you thinking warm winters in Texas, beach access in Florida, or mountain views in Colorado? Tell me where your tiny house dream will become reality with zoning. Next, we examine insurance requirements where portability often voids standard policies. How do insurance requirements complicate coverage for Tesla tiny houses? Insurance requirements complicate for Tesla tiny houses. Your Tesla tiny house might be parked legally, but what about insurance? Pattis, the question most people forget until disaster strikes. Right now, only 22% of tiny homes in America, Maniguito, secure standard homeowner-style policies in 2025. According to Bankrate's audit of $4,500, claims premiums average $1,800 per year. That is 2.3 times more than a conventional home. And for seniors, the picture is even worse. 67% of applicants are denied simply because their home is classified as mobile. So, how does Tesla plan to bypass this broken system? The truth is that insurers live and die by they will not write a policy unless the asset fits into a category they understand. If your tiny house has wheels, most carriers force it into a recreational vehicle policy. That policy covers travel and accidents on the road, but excludes many of the risks that matter for daily living, like fire, leaks, or liability from a visitor slipping inside your home. If you anchor the unit and remove the wheels, it may be treated like a manufactured home, which pushes you into a mobile home insurance product. But here's the catch. Many top insurers flat out refuse to cover built tiny houses unless they are certified by an industry body. Progressive, for example, makes it clear that stationary tiny homes almost always require a manufactured home policy. While mobile units get treated as recreational vehicles, that classification gate is the wall every owner runs into. And even if you clear that hurdle, the cost hurts. Data from brokers and insurance research sites show that tiny house premiums typically run between $400 and $1,500 per year depending on coverage and region. Recreational vehicle policies run between $600 and $1,500, depending on whether you want liability only or full comprehensive coverage. For a retiree living on Social Security and a small pension, that extra cost it's into money meant for food, medication, or travel to see grandchildren. Whereas, the insurance market resists tiny homes is simple. Underwriting risk is construction very. Some homes are steel framed, others are wood. Some sit on permanent foundations, others move every That uncertainty makes insuresphere hidden liabilities like faulty electrical hookups, illegal land use, or unsafe towing. Many even demand proof that the wheels have been removed and the house placed on blocks before they'll issue a policy, which destroys flexibility that makes a Tesla tiny house attractive in the first place. What about Tesla's solution? The answer is standardization and technology. First, Tesla can mainstream Certifinik by building every unit to a recognized standard like RVA or N, owned, issuing each home with a compliance dossier tied to its serial number. Tesla moves the guesswork insurers hate. With a known factory-built product, insurers can finally underwrite tiny houses at scale. Second, Tesla can bake a risk reduction into the design. Imagine Tesla tiny house with factory-installed fire suppression in the kitchen, multi-sensor leak detection at every plumbing joint, a thermal camera to flag a and telemetry that tracks when and how the home was moved. For insurers, that is a dream. If an actuary starts with a baseline premium of $900 per year and calculates a 30% reduction in risk thanks to sensors and automation that drops premiums by $1 to $70 annually, that is real money retirers keep in their wallets. Third, Tesla can aggregate risk by offering a bundled pack. Lot leases, basic insurance, and maintenance all rolled into a single $75 per month subscription. For seniors, this transforms confusing insurance paper into one predictable bill. Easier for banks and city officials to accept and harder for insurers to deny. Think about what this means. Nothing stings more than realizing the home you live in is not covered when Picture the peace of mind of knowing your Tesla tiny house claims are processed fast, and there are no fine print traps waiting to empty your savings. Tesla's model doesn't just give you a place, it gives you security, and that's so. Would you feel safe moving into a Tesla tiny house today without knowing it was insured? Or do you think Tesla's bundled certification sensor-driven approach could finally break the insurance deadlock? Comment tiny house below if you believe insurance should never stand between you and your home. And stick around because next, we dig into the other wall that stops tiny homes from going mainstream, building codes. You'll see why even a perfect insurance plan can collapse if home itself does not meet local construction rules, and how Tesla intends to turn those codes from a barrier into an opportunity. How can Tesla resolve building rules to make tiny houses real homes? 3. How can Tesla resolve building rules to make tiny houses real homes? The truth is that building codes split tiny houses into 3 main buckets, and where your unit falls changes everything. First, if it is built on a permanent foundation, it has to comply with the International Residential Code and every local code written into law. Second, if it qualifies as a manufactured home, then it comes under THUD, Manufactured Home, Construction and Safety Standards, which are federal. That HUD label matters because it unlocks real financing and full insurance options. Third, if it is registered as a recreational vehicle, then it falls under RV standards such as NFPA 192 and RVIA rules. That is why lobbying for certification and adoption as Tesla cannot just sell a trailer. They must sell a certified platform that regulators recognize as a home. The International Code Council has already published an appendix for tiny homes in the residential code. It provides clear rules, but only works when local governments adopt it. With Third Appendix, even a perfectly safe house can fail inspection because theorem is a few inches too narrow, or their stairguard is not built to spec. Appendix sets 400 square ft as the ceiling for a tiny house, and that comes the design budget. If Tesla locks in a platform under 400 square ft with a 7 feet ceiling in the main living area and a stair geometry that complies with the International Residential Code, then most of the inspection battles are won before they begin. Viewers over 50 know exactly what they mean. Inspectors will pull out their tape measure and check ceiling height and stair rises. A factoricity that hits those numbers every time changes the whole game. Instead, offering to customize every build to match a very city rule, Tesla can do what manufactured home companies did decades ago. Produce one controlled platform, Nth factory, that complies with Appendix Q where adopted, and complies with RVA standards where it is not. That is the only way to get repeatable compliance. Engineering details like modular floor sections with sealed plumbing, pre-ested electrical panels, sized for a heat pump hand, tankless water heater, an unanchoring system for optional permanent foundations mean the house is by producing at scale, Tesla could drive down per unit costs by 35%, which makes that $7,559 price plausible for a stripped down version. A Tesla tiny house is not just